polygon rendering methods, there are three methods: constant intensity, guard shading, and Phong shading. Constant intensity shading, what is it mean? A fast and simple method for rendering an object with polygon surfaces, also called flat shading. See, rendering we have done it practically. Where we have rendered the image? In third practical, when we done it with the Blender. In that we render the image. What is render? In that case, what happened? In rendering the object, we render that object and create its .jpg file, correct? And in the rendering, you can see the lighting effects. What lighting? If we change the lighting effects, and we again perform the rendering, you can see the different type of object with different lighting effects. If we change the position of the object and after that you can render it, then also you can change it. Rendering we have done with the animation also, correct? We create a .mp4 file. So that rendering we are going to see here. So constant intensity shading, the simple method is flat shading. A single intensity is calculated for each polygon. Okay, for each polygon. For example, here we consider this glass. We created this glass and we are going to render it. All points for the surface of the polygon are then displayed with the same intensity value. You can observe here. Constant shading, constant, why? Same intensity, then it is a constant. Then it is a constant. So constant shading can be useful for quickly displaying the general appearance of a curved surface. When we render it looks like this, that we have seen it practically also. So assumption used here during the constant shading or rendering method, the object is polyhedron and is not an approximation of an object with curved surface. All light sources illuminating the object are sufficiently far from the surface so that n is the surface number, L is the light source, and the attenuation function are constant over the surface. The viewing position is sufficiently far from the surface so that VR is constant over the surface. So these are some assumptions made during the constant rendering or constant intensity. So guard shading, what it means? This intensity interpolation scheme renders a polygon surface by linearly interpolating intensity values across the surface. Okay, across the surface, whatever the vertices are there generated, all these are one by one intensity is calculated in this scheme. Intensity values for each polygon are matched with the values of the adjacent polygons along the common edges. Means suppose for example we consider a scene, okay, like this. We consider a scene in which there are different polygons, vertices. So these vertices are, for example, like this. Suppose this is the first vertex, then this is the second one, then this is the third, this is the fourth. In this way, in this scene, there are some surfaces which are made up of different polygons, different vertices. So here what we need to find out, we need to find out the intensity illumination for each of these surfaces. So with the values of adjacent polygons along the common edges. So in that case, we need to consider the common edges. This eliminating the intensity discontinuities that can occur in flat shading. Each polygon surface is rendered with guard shading by performing the following three steps are used. Determine the average unit normal vector at each polygon vertex. So we know that when we calculate the intensity, surface normal we use the value n, then we require the value L. What is that L? It is the light source. So n and L, these values are required to calculate the intensity along with the whether the ambient light is there, whether the diffusion reflection, whether the specular reflection, all these things are considered. So determine the average unit normal vector, the value of n, average value of n at each polygon vertex. Apply an illumination model to each vertex to calculate the vertex intensity. Means for each of the vertex, apply the elimination model and calculate the vertex intensity. Linearly interpolate the vertex intensity over the surface of the polygon, and then entire surface polygon, whatever the polygons are there on the surface, then we calculate the intensity. This intensity interpolation scheme renders, sorry, at each polygon vertex, we obtain a normal vector by averaging the surface normals for all polygons. I told that we calculate the surface normals of all polygons. If there are different polygons, then in this way, it is shown here, not necessary. So this is the first one polygon. This is the N1, this is N2, this is N3, this is N4, N5, N6, different polygons are there. So at each polygon vertex, we obtain a normal vector, okay, by averaging the surface normal of all polygons sharing that vertex. So at this vertex, for example, V is the vertex. This vertex is shared by these four polygons, correct? N1, N2, N3, and N4. This vertex V is shared by these four polygons. Then how to calculate the vertex normal vector for this vertex? For that, we calculate the average of all these four. So thus for any vertex V, this is the vertex which is common in between these four polygons. Thus for any vertex position V, we obtain the unit vector vertex normal with the calculation summation of k ranges from 1 to n, nk, whatever the normal vector normal of all these polygons divided by mod of this nk. So, whatever the value comes, this is the vertex normal for this vertex V. That is the simple way used to find out the vertex normal if there is a vertex which is common for multiple polygons. Similarly, if we want to find out this vertex, then again we need to consider this polygon, this polygon, this polygon, and this polygon. And the average of all this is the vector normal of this vertex. This vertex, if we consider this V, then in this polygon and this polygon is participate in this vertex. So here we need to consider the average of these two. Once we have vertex normals, we can determine the intensity at vertices from a lighting model. Once we got this value for this vertex normal NV, then we can determine the intensity at that vertices from the lighting model. And that example equations we have seen in the previous lectures using ambient light, using diffusion reflection, specular reflection, shading, etc. That is simple guard shading. So for each, now some vertices that are on the scan line. So how to identify that? For each scan line, the intensity at the intersection of the scan line with a polygon edge is linearly interpolated from the intensities at the edge endpoints. Means what here? See, this is the scan line. Okay. So this part we have seen the scan lines in seed fill or polygon fill algorithm, which is divided into the scan lines, and per scan line we fill the algorithm one by one. So that scan lines are considered here. Now suppose we want to find the intensity at the intersection of this scan line for that polygon. Now this is a polygon, this is the first vertex of the polygon 1, this is the second vertex 2, and this is the third vertex of the polygon 3. Now this polygon intersect this scan line where at this position it intersect and at this position it intersects. So we call it as a position number 4 where this polygon intersect this scan line, and here 5 is the intersection point for this polygon. So as fast method obtaining the intensity at point 4, how to obtain? For that we need to find out the intensities between 1 and 2. Find out the intensities of 1, that is I1. Find out the intensity of I2. So in this way we can find out the intensity of I4 with this equation. Similarly, suppose now I want the intensity at point 5. We need to consider the point 3 and point 4. So similarly, intensity at the right intersection means point 5 is interpolated from intensity values of vertices 2 and 3. And then there are two intersection points on this scan line. These together, whatever the value I4 and I5, these together are used to find out the intensity at this scan line. That is about the scan line, which are, the point which are intersecting the scan line. Now here, incremental calculations are used to obtain the successive edge intensity values between the scan lines and to obtain successive intensities along a scan line. Means increment, first scan line 1 is start, then scan line 2 is start, then scan line 3 is start, then scan line 4 is start. Incremental calculations are done here. And one by one the intersecting. So in this scan line, these two are intersecting points. So find out the intensity at these two intersecting points for this scan line and then combine these two. Then these are the intersecting point for this scan line. If we draw the next scan line in this way and identify the intensity at the intersection point, that is guard shading. And according to the guard shading, the example is shown here. When the object is rendered with this calculation, it look like this. It is flat shading and you can observe this is the guard shading, approximation of an object when we calculate the intensity with the guard shading. So what are the advantage and disadvantage of this guard shading? So guard shading removes the intensity discontinuous associated with the constant shading. In constant shading, we are not considering the scan lines. Then if there are multiple polygons are there, the vertices which are common, that also consider the guard shading. So guard shading removes the intensity discontinuities associated with the constant shading model. Now the disadvantages. Highlights on the surfaces are sometimes displayed with anomalous shapes, means abnormal shapes. If there are in the surface, there are abnormal shapes, then in that case finding out the exact vertices which are common between multiple polygons, it is very difficult. So, and linear intensity interpolation can cause bright and dark intensity streaks called match bands to appear on the surface. So this is the disadvantage of guard shading. Now the next, that is Phong shading. Phong shading. So Phong shading is somewhat similar to this one with only little difference with the guard shading. Now it is a normal vector interpolation shading. Shading means again it is for vectors which are common in the different polygons. It displays more realistic highlights on a surface and greatly reduces match band effect which occurs in the guard shading. Why? If there are such abnormal shapes are there, then it is very difficult to find out the intensity of that vertices. So to avoid this, the Phong shading is used. A polygon surface is rendered using Phong shading by carrying out the steps. Determine the average unit normal vector at each polygon vertex. So considering the polygons which are common for that vertex, so accordingly find out the unit normal vector. Then linearly interpolate the vertex normals over the surface of the polygon, find out the intensities and apply the illumination model along each scan line to calculate the projected pixel intensities for the surface point. So here not only the vertices are intensities are calculated, along with each scan line, the intensities are calculated for the projected pixel intensities for the surface point. Not only the vertices, for the surface point also. The normal vector n for the scan line intersection point along the edge between vertices 1 and 2, n1 and n2, can be obtained by vertically interpoling between the edge endpoint normal. So here the scan line goes between these two. So for this n1 and n2, the n value is calculated with this intersection point, which is the intersect by the scan line. Incremental methods are used here to evaluate the normals between the scan lines along each individual scan line. At each pixel position along a scan line, the illumination model is applied to determine the surface intensity at that model. What are the advantages? It produces more accurate result than the direct interpolation of intensities as in guard shading. More accurate result we get here by using direct interpolation. And disadvantage, the trade-off, however, is the Phong shading requires considerably more calculations. Each scan line is considered there, and that's why it requires more calculation. Now, fast Phong shading. So, here one triangle example is given. Approximates the intensity calculations using a Taylor series expansion and triangular surface patches. If there are triangular surface patches, then we can express the surface normal, the value of n surface normal at any point xy over the triangle as ax plus by plus c, where vectors a, b and c are determined from three vertex equation. So ax, suppose there are number of vertices with the triangular surface, then n1, n2, n3, nk up to 1, 2, 3 for example. So all these are calculated with this equation. These are some equations for this one. Now the next, ray tracing method, the last point of this ray tracing method. So ray tracing means, see here, it is shown here in this diagram. A ray is sent out from each pixel. Suppose there are multiple pixels. These two pixels are shown here. Blue color, these are shown here. A ray is sent out from each pixel position to locate the surface intersection of the object. Where that pixel surface intersection of that object in the scene. So for that, a ray is sent out from each pixel position to locate the surface intersection for that object. And that method is ray tracing method. So this is virtual viewpoint of the object, virtual screen object. This object is there. Now see in detail. Okay. So ray tracing is an extension of this idea. Means the pixel, every pixel array is sent. So that is shown here also. Projection reference point. This is this pixel sent a ray. Where it goes, this goes to this particular surface. It reflects. We know that the surface, the light source is here. The light comes from here. Some of these are absorbed, some are reflected. Now this is the subject, another object where this ray goes. Then again it is reflected. This is the third object in the scene where this ray goes. So instead of merely looking for visible surface for each pixel, we continue to bounce the ray around the scene, collecting intensity contribution. So this ray bounce on all the objects. The basic ray tracing algorithm also provides for visible surface detection, for which purpose this ray tracing algorithm is used. Means this light is there, all the intensities and all already we have seen. But here in ray tracing, only a ray is sent through every pixel. That is a different method, ray tracing. And that is goes through this pixel here on this object, from here it object. So for which purpose these ray tracing methods are used? Visible surface detection, shadow effects, transparency, multiple light source elimination. So for this purpose it is used. That is shown here. Again the same diagram. The light source from here, virtual viewpoint. The rays are sent from each pixel to the object. So shadow ray to light is unblocked if object is visible, and shadow ray to the light is blocked if object in shadow. If there is a shadow of the object, then the ray is blocked. You can observe here the ray is blocked. But if this is not there. Means if it is visible, then the shadow ray to the light is unblocked. Means unblocked means it allowed to go. So what is the basic ray tracing algorithm? That is the concept of ray tracing. Now what is the ray tracing algorithm? Basic. Fire a single ray from each pixel position. That I told that from each pixel position, fire a single ray into the scene. Whatever the scene there, whatever the number of objects there, there's ray is fire from each pixel position into the scene along the projection path, which is equivalent to viewing the scene through a pinhole camera. So through a pinhole camera, whatever the position, in that position, along that position, a ray from each pixel position is sent to into the scene. Determine which surfaces the ray intersect and order this by distance from the pixel. Means from this the rays are sent from each one. So from here, from everywhere the ray is sent on the scene, and determine which rays intersect the objects in the scene. Now these rays are intersect this object. These rays are intersect this object. Determine which surfaces the ray intersect and order these by distance from the pixel. Means which surface is near to the pixel, that is considered first, then next, and the surface which is far away from the particular pixel ray, that is at the end. The nearest surface to the pixel is visible surface for that pixel. Which is the nearest for this? Suppose I say here is the pixel sent ray from here. This is the nearest pixel, and so we can say that from this viewpoint, this is the visible surface. Why? It is the nearest, the ray is directly intersect this surface, and it is the nearest one. The nearest surface to the pixel is the visible surface for that pixel. Reflect a ray of the visible surface along the specular reflection angle. So here specular reflection angle means PS is used. For transparent surface, also send a ray through the surface in the refraction direction. So if the surface, if that object is transparent, then some part is reflected with the specular reflection, while some of the part is refracted. So both reflection angle and refraction angle both are required in the case of transparent surfaces. And repeat this process for secondary rays also. So in this way, the basic ray tracing algorithm works. Simply fire a single ray from each of the pixel in the scene, then find out which is the nearest one and accordingly order this one, and whatever the nearest, these are visible from the viewpoint. Then calculate the angle of reflection, specular reflection. If the surface is transparent, then calculate the angle of reflection along with the angle of refraction. We terminate a retracing path when any one of the following condition is satisfied. This path is continuous in the scene. Okay, from this object is go to the next object in this way. That is shown here also. So this path goes from here in this way. But when we have to stop, the ray intersect no surfaces. Means the ray is not going to intersect any surface. Then stop that ray tracing path. The ray intersects a light source that is not reflecting surface. Means it intersect the light source, not the opaque object, directly light source, non-luminous object. A maximum allowable number of reflections have taken place. Whatever the number of maximum reflections allowed, if it is taken place, then stop there. Otherwise, this one is continuous process, that is ray tracing algorithm. That is shown here. So incoming ray comes from here. This is our normally surface normal. Then this is the light source, reflected direction. If the surface is transparent, then refraction is also used there. That is shown here. If surface is transparent, not only the reflection, the refracted ray path is also considered. That is here in opposite theta r, it is the refracted path, and this is reflection path theta I. Okay, so the next that we have seen basic ray tracing algorithm. Now anti-aliased ray tracing. So when casting one ray per pixel, we are likely to have aliasing artifacts. Solution is to use multiple rays. Okay, when aliasing effect occurs, when we call it as an aliasing effect, when it is a zigzag image is created, right? So in that case, that avoid this aliasing effect, anti-aliasing methods are used. So anti-aliasing super sampling already we know. So two basic techniques are used in ray tracing for anti-aliasing, or two basic anti-aliasing techniques are used in ray tracing algorithm: super sampling and adaptive sampling. Now, what is super sampling and what is adaptive sampling? In short, we are going to see it. The pixel is treated as a finite square area of a single point. So here you can see this is the, suppose this is the surface, it is divided into this pixel, and which pixel cover that surface are considered. Super sampling use multiple evenly spaced rays over each pixel area. Use multiple evenly spaced rays, means the rays are in the even direction, or evenly spaced rays are there. Mismatch is not allowed. Evenly spaced rays or samples over each pixel area. While in adaptive sampling, uses unevenly spaced rays in some regions of the pixel area. When multiple rays per pixel are used, here in both the case, multiple rays are used per pixel. The intensities of the pixel rays are averaged to produce the overall pixel intensity. Super sampling, one ray is generated through each corner of the pixel. In super sampling, one ray is generated through each corner of the pixel. The super sampling part, we have seen that how we actually work in that. The multiple pixels means what? The pixel is divided into multiple. If the intensities of four rays are not approximately equal, or if some small object lies between the four rays, okay, there are four rays and a small object between that rays, then we need to subdivide it. So we divide the pixel area into subpixel. For example, suppose there is an object. Suppose this is the pixel, and in that there is an object like this, which is a small one. Now this object not fit in one pixel. So that part we have seen in the super sampling. What we do it, first we divide it into four parts and check whether it is within one pixel. If not, again we need to divide it into four parts in this way. So that is shown here. The pixel is divided into 3 pixel or 4 pixel, so that that particular object lie within 1 pixel. So instead of passing rays through the pixel corners, we can generate the rays through the subpixel centers. That is anti-aliasing ray tracing. Now distributed ray tracing. Pixel sampling is accomplished by randomly distributing a number of rays over the pixel surface. Pixel sampling is accomplished by randomly distributing the number of rays over the pixel. So here it is not random, okay, but randomly used is the distributed. Choosing ray tracing completely at random can result in the rays clustering together in a small region of the pixel area and leaving other part of the pixel unsampled. Means randomly we choose that pixel area. You can see here in this example, the exact area in center area is not used. Randomly any area of the pixel is used. So you can observe that here it is the samples are there while there is no sample. Here in this portion you can see there are no samples. So a better approximation is obtained by using a technique called jittering on a regular subpixel grid. So this is a subpixel grid. One pixel is divided into 16 pixels, 4 by 4, 16 sub areas. So this usually done by initially dividing the pixel area into 16 sub areas and generating a random jitter position. So these are the jitter position for this pixel. It is a random, not any sequence is used here. So here in distributed ray tracing, integer code 1 through 16 are randomly assigned to each of the 16 rays. So here you can observe that these are the 16 rays, but these are not at the center. So these are not evenly distributed. Some jitter positions, random jitter positions are used here. So integer codes 1 through 16 are randomly assigned to each of these 16 rays. Each pixel ray is then processed through the scene to determine the intensity contribution for that ray. So each subpixel ray is then processed through the scene and determine for this pixel determine the intensity, for this pixel determine the intensity in this way. The 16 ray intensities are then averaged to produce the overall pixel. Means every pixel intensity is calculated, but it is different. Why? Because these are not at a particular position. Random positions are there, jitter random positions are there, and that's why every pixel intensity when we calculate it is different. Then these 16 values are taken and these are averaged to produce the overall pixel intensity. If the subpixel intensity is vary too much, the pixel is further subdivided. If the subpixel intensities are vary with each other too much, then that pixel is again divided into subpixel. That is divide and conquer method is used. All are divided and then the result is conquered together. So that is about the distributed ray tracing algorithm.